Alexander the Great is mostly known for his conquests and for naming a whole bunch of cities after himself. But there's one question people often ask about his empire building. Why did he head east and never even think about going west? Like, say, conquering Rome? To answer that, we need to look at what Greece was like in the 4th century BC. At the time, it was a mess. A patchwork of city-states, small kingdoms, and constantly shifting alliances. Up north was the Kingdom of Macedon, ruled by Philip II. He had been expanding southward, which freaked out the Athenians. They built a coalition to stop him, but spoiler alert, they lost. Macedon came out on top and took control of most of Greece, except Sparta, of course, because Sparta was always off doing its own thing. Philip's next big plan was to take revenge on Persia for their earlier invasion of Greece, so he started building a new alliance to go after them. Unfortunately for Philip, he got stabbed before he could get that plan going. That's when his son, Alexander III, took over. Like his dad, he wanted to expand the kingdom, but heading west toward Rome, yeah, that wasn't really on the table. First of all, Philip had promised to go after Persia, and that promise was one of the things keeping the Greek allies on board. If Alexander wanted to keep them united, he had to stick to that plan. Second, Alexander probably didn't know much, if anything, about Rome. At that time, Rome wasn't a major player. It was just a small city-state with a bit of territory. There was nothing there that made it worth marching an army all that way. So in 334, Alexander launched his campaign against Persia, and it went well. He beat the Persian king, Darius, and took over a huge chunk of land, officially earning the title of Alexander the Great. Then he headed south to Egypt, took over there too, founded the city of Alexandria, and made himself pharaoh. Not bad. Next, he moved toward Persia's capital, beat Darius again, and took the city. Darius ran, but was eventually killed by his own people. Alexander then claimed the title King of Persia, so maybe Alexander the Notable at this point? Anyway, with Darius out of the picture, you might think Alexander would head home to Macedon and maybe look west. But no, even with Persia's ruler gone, he still had to deal with revolts and unrest all over the empire. He'd mentioned before that he had ambitions to conquer places like Carthage, so he definitely wasn't done expanding. But again, Rome? Still not on the radar. The Greeks had very little contact with Rome back then, and honestly didn't care much about it. Rome wouldn't even get on their radar until it started taking over Greek cities in southern Italy. And that didn't happen until about 50 years after Alexander died. So, back to Alexander. He couldn't return home anyway, because one of Darius's old generals had declared himself king, and Alexander wasn't going to let that slide. He spent the next 6 years putting down revolts across Persia. Once things were more or less under control, he moved west to Babylon, and it was there that he decided he was going to conquer the afterlife. So heading west wasn't an option anymore. And Rome, it got to stay safe, right where it was. I hope you enjoyed this episode.